So by now you've got your hosting, you've got your domain pointed to your hosting, and you may even have your hosts file configured so you don't have to wait for the DNS to propagate. So now what it's time to do is actually install WordPress. This is what we've been waiting for. So first off, we're going to go the quick route, and then we're going to go take the slow route, and by slow I'm talking like 5 minutes. Before we do any downloading, let's hop over to the Hostgator control panel. Now, Hostgator is not alone here. Just about any web host out there is going to have an automated WordPress installer. It's just that ubiquitous. So it's going to take maybe a minute to install. We're here in the cPanel, and we're going to scroll down, and almost to the bottom, it's under Software Services, Quick Install. And on the left, we've got a few different applications available, several actually, and at the top, towards the top, it's WordPress. And click Continue, and then we'll choose the domain, and before, you might remember, we had TN Gypsy Horses we were working with, and so you've got a little box here. If you do want to install on a subfolder, you can do that, but we're just going to install to the root. And so first off, you're going to want to put in an admin email, and this is one of those required fields. Some of these fields are not required. It'll just give you some default value if you don't put anything there. Admin email, we're going to go with info@theultimatewordpressguide.com. Admin username, that's going to default to admin if you leave that blank, but for security purposes, it's really good to put something other than admin for the admin username. And so I'm going to call this the guide. And that's not something you'd ever guess, right? And then so we're going to call the title Gypsy Horses. No need to really be creative here. And then just click Install Now. And you'll see it goes pretty fast. It takes a couple seconds to get started, and bam, you're done. So it'll dynamically generate a password here, and there's our username. So I'm going to copy that password, and I'm going to click this link, and it's going to open a new tab, and we're at the WordPress login. So the guide is my username, and I'm pasting in that password and logging in. And so this is the dashboard we get to for the first time. So that's it. We're done. WordPress is installed. Voila. We can get into configuring it later on, but right now I want to hop back and start all over again, and this time we're going to install the manual way. So what we can do is we can go back to the quick install and manage our installations and find the tngypsyhorses.com one, and all we need to do is just click the X and uninstall, and it's gone. So now we can go ahead and start from scratch one more time. So back to the cPanel, and we're going to hop over here to wordpress.org. You'll see the download link, so I'm going to download that. And you might want to check out the famous 5-minute install directions. On that same page, there's a link to the handy guide. And so this is it. So what we want to do is, first you need to unzip that file. So I'm going to open up my downloads folder. Okay, so I've extracted it, and I'm opening up this folder and this folder, and we'll see the WP config sample, and I'm going to rename that to WP config, and I want to edit that, and so I'm going to edit this with Notepad++ because that's my text editor of choice. And so we'll see here we've got database name, DB user, password, host, and you don't need to worry about this. But just first off, in our case, the host is going to be localhost because the database server is on the same host as the web server, just FYI. So really all we have to deal with are these three first values. So we're going to hop back over to our dashboard and scroll down to databases, and I'm going to say MySQL databases, and I want to add a new database It really doesn't matter what you call it. Probably the more random the better. So why not? I'm just gonna. It can't have semicolons, and so that's good enough for me. Let's throw in some digits and copy that. And so DB name, I'm gonna paste that. Okay, so we're back at the databases section, and I've created my database, but I need to create a user. And the username can be just anything at random, doesn't really matter what it is. The default installation when we did it earlier, it just made the username the same as the name of the database, but for a little more security, what we want to do is let's make it something a bit different, something a little more random. So we're just going to throw in some junk in there, and notice I've got no semicolons this time, and can't be longer than 7 characters. So I'm going to trim that back a little bit. So I'm just going to paste that in there for the password and create user. So now I've got to add that user to my database. So I'm going to scroll down here, and just a little below where I was a second ago, my user is going to be this guy, and my database is going to be this guy, and I'm going to add, and it's going to ask me what access I wanted to have. Let's give it all privileges, and make changes. Okay, so now that is all the database stuff we need to do. So we've didn't copy that username, so let me do that now. Okay, so I've got my database name, I got my user, got my password, got my host name. Charset and collate aren't really all that important. And this stuff is optional, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. And you'll see, go here for that. So that's all you got to do. You just copy and paste that path, and it automatically generates your security stuff. So I'm just going to highlight that and paste it. And now this is one of those things. It's not required, but again, for a little bit of extra security, it's a really good idea to make the table prefix something that's not standard. So and there's a few extra things we want to do. One thing is you're going to want a little more memory than what is defined by default. So I'd like to just go ahead from the beginning and paste in this WP limit 96. Let's go with 128. Now we're ready to start uploading stuff. So what we're going to want to do is bring up our favorite FTP client. Now, for me, that's FileZilla. Notepad++ actually has a plugin that you could do FTP with. I still like FileZilla better. So I've gone ahead and pointed us to the document root of the tngypsyhorses.com domain. And on this side, I've got all the files that we downloaded and extracted, including the wp-config file that I just finished editing. So we're just going to click Control A to select all, and then just drag it over here. And it's going to take a while for these files to upload, but once they're done, we're just going to browse to wp-admin/install.php. Okay, so our files are done uploading, so now we're going to navigate to this wp-admin/install.php. And I've already got it brought up here, so I'm just going to press enter, and it's asking me for my site title, my admin username, and password. Same as the auto install. So we're going to say Gypsy Horses, and the username was going to be the guide. Password. Okay, so I've entered in a password, and email address. It's going to be info@theultimatewordpressguide.com. And I don't really want search engines to index this site, so I'm going to say Install Wordpress. And there we have it. So WordPress is installed. So a little more complicated, a little more to do than the auto install, obviously, but at least we got to see some of the pieces and how they work together. So in the next video, we're going to be going through the basic configuration for SEO.